Welcome back to my page. So today I will be making a two-part video looking at the cost associated with getting a job in the UK. And I'll be looking at it from the perspective of an international student. What are the cost implications you need to prepare yourself for? How do you overcome the challenges? And how does this affect your opportunity for sponsorship? So I will give you a detailed breakdown of what is associated. By the way, this is the first part of the video, and in this first part of this video, what I will be focusing on is the immediate cost implication you need to prepare yourself for. In the second part of the video, I will be looking at your pathway to sponsorship and what are the costs associated with that. So let's go. Um, the first element of it, which you need to be fully aware of, number one, so interview cost. How does these actually work out? Let's assume, as an international student, you've been very fortunate to get your 20 hours job. Now, ideally, you want to get your 20 hours in a reputable organizations, either private sector or in the public sector. For example, NHS or any other job in civil service. Now, that you're probably restricted to 20 hours anyway because that's the current law in UK at the moment. Now, 3 months before your graduation, as I've always advised, you want to start looking for your permanent role that will give you pathway to sponsorship. So now you've now started applying for jobs. Probably this is where your direct cost implications start to reflect on you in terms of what you will be facing. Number one, you probably want to assume in the process of attending the interview, if you're very fortunate, you will probably pass your interview at first attempt. But if it happens that you've not passed at first attempt, what do you prepare yourself for? You're looking at cost implication in the region of 500 to 800. And how does this work out? You probably want to understand that your location where you're applying to are probably not within your proximity, and it's always ideal to expand your job search to across everywhere in the country in order to give you a better opportunity. The more limited you are, the more limited your chances are. But the more you expand your job search, the more better opportunity you have. And this is also very crucial when it comes to the social mobility discussion. And therefore, if you then go on to start doing that, you look at, say, for example, you're currently based in Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, and you've applied to jobs across the country. Your interview could come from somewhere like Bournemouth, it could come from somewhere like Grey Yarmouth, Norwich, or similar areas. And what are the cost implications? So, for example, if you look at average train travel from your area, give and take, somewhere around Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, to those areas, depending on how quick, depending on the proximity of your interview to the time you have to attend. Um, you're looking at somewhere in the region of about £80, £60. Now, the very good thing is, some jobs would have given you an idea of when the interview date will be, but nonetheless, this too doesn't mean you're going to have to go ahead and book your training in advance because you don't know whether they will call you for an interview. So you probably want to say if you have five interview invites, look at imagine so you can look at somewhere in the region of about at least an average travel £80. So multiply that by five, and hopefully you will be opening that by the fifth interview or second or third, and whatever you decide to do with the other ones, you would have gotten an offer in that capacity. And then the second part of it, which is also very crucial, and this is going to be very, very important for you if you are an international student, and it doesn't even matter if you're not an international student, it also applies to anyone in the UK. So let's look at the relocation element of it. If you're based in Sheffield, for example, and you receive a job offer in somewhere like Norwich or Grey Yarmouth, this is not a place whereby you can commute to and come back the same day. It's not really convenient. Number one, financially, is not really sustainable in terms of commuting by train to workplace and then coming back home. So now you want to relocate closer to your work area, and these will have implication. For example, if you're currently living in a rented apartment, you will probably have to then, if your contract hasn't expired or you've happened to renew your contract before you got your job, you probably have to renegotiate a new terms with your landlord or your estate agent, which in most cases they will expect you to pay them up front because you're legally binded by the contract you've signed with them. They will then ask you how you're going to make this work. Now, if you're going to break the contract, it has an implication. They could take a legal approach to it. If they're quite understanding, they will ask you to go and look for someone to rent the house, on their behalf. They wouldn't want to do that, and you will still carry on shouldering the responsibility that comes with the rent until you're able to find someone in there. Now, if you're relocating, you also want to look at the area you're relocating to in terms of your income, how expensive those areas are. Some areas are quite reasonably cheaper than other places. For example, London broadly as known is quite very expensive. If you're looking at outside London, you want to look at what's the cost. Are you a single person? Do you have family? What's the cost of one bed, two bed? What kind of environment do you want to live in? So you also want to take that into account. If you go to platform like Rightmove, Zoopla, you will have an idea of what that cost implication will look like and what are the associated fees as in relation to the house, council tax, water, electricity, gas, so on and so forth. So those are the things you really need to figure out as time goes on, and then you also have to look at it in terms of the proximity of the place to your work. That's another very crucial important element. Let's look at the final part of it, which is the most important amongst all of them. Now, this is loss of income. And possibly, in some cases, if you're not careful, your interview could also cost you your job. So, in the process of trying to seek something good, you could also lose something along the line if you're not quite strategic and not strategic in terms of the way you've planned yourself. So, how could this work out? Let's look at it, for example. Like in many cases, any international student, majority of your 20 hours are probably job you're doing with agencies, you're working in warehouse, or you're working as a healthcare assistant in a care home. And these are jobs whereby they are not quite very friendly in terms of work environment. There is hostile relationship between the managers and the workforce. There's a lot of pressure in terms of your rights, very, very curtailed. So you will face series of hostile approach from your manager. The hostility towards you when it comes to attendance, work attendance is very high in this kind of area. And how could these have a direct implication? So take for example, you're someone that has applied, you've been very fortunate, you're constantly getting an interview request, and in order to ensure that you attend those interviews, one or two things will happen. You either have to cancel your shift or you call in sick. Calling in sick is not really the ideal, then you have to cancel your shift. And in the process of canceling your shift, which sometimes might be last minute or taking annual leave, which then affects your manager's ability to plan the roster or organize their own workforce in terms of what they need to deliver on the day. The implication is as such that you start getting portrayed as unreliable, number one. Number two, you start getting cold shoulder from your manager, the level of hostility increases, and also you could be taking off the rota. They might decide not to give you shift anymore. And these kind of jobs, anyway, they tend to fall in the category of, you get paid as you work. So if you won't earn anything if you don't turn up for those shifts. So you now have double whammy in that way. For example, you're losing income because you're not going to work. Number two, you're likely to be taken off the roster. So the hostility that will be coming from your manager could also have implication. And if you happen not to pass those interviews you've been pushing ahead for as part of your own career progression, you could also lose your job in the process, then leaving you empty-handed. So it's always quite very important that you're strategic, you're well prepared, and you know all these things beforehand. And this is something that you will find difficult, but you have to remain resolute, dedicated. And I think with some of the challenges now, particularly when it comes to sponsorship opportunity, it is now so difficult because if you look at what the process right now is with NHS when it comes to sponsorship, sponsorship is not as easy as it used to be anymore. You can't get sponsored at the band five outside of London. And so there's two categories. Let's look at the new entrants. Previously, that is rated as somewhere in the region of 30,960 is now 33,400, which broadly speaking, these are restricted to hospitals in London within the high cost living area, Guys and St. Thomas's, King's College, Epsom St. Heliers, Whittington, Imperial, hospitals of those kinds that will be able to pay you that kind of salary where their starting salary is about 35,000, way above the 33,400 you need. But these are highly competitive trusts in order to apply there. And the jobs are very limited anyway to start with the situation of things in NHS. Outside of London, this is somewhere around band six, another highly competitive role where a lot of people that have experience in NHS at band five are now looking to move to this role. Then you now need to look at the other aspect of it as well. If you're looking at the high skilled worker visa, for example, you're looking at 41,700, previously 38,700, now 41,700. Therefore, that is the band 7 with NHS, band 6 in high cost living area hospitals in London. This is also another highly competitive role. So, in this process, you will face series of challenges which you need to prepare yourself for as an international student. And unless you're well prepared, you will not be able to face these challenges immediately. And this is why you yourself, as an international student, you need to get yourself ready. And the most important part of it as well, again, another crucial element I forgot to mention, which I would like to let you know. All these cost elements I've listed are based on the principle that you are the one doing the job hunting yourself. If you're seeking the service of somewhere else, you also have a lot of implication in that regard. For example, the consultation process, interview prep, helping you to apply, polishing your supporting statement. Those aspects as well have cost implication. So you can see what it means that your fee that you will incur coming into UK does not end with your school fees. It also include other elements that you might not be well prepared for, and these are the things you need to know before you step your foot in the country, or as soon as you step your foot in the country, you need to start making sure that you get all these resources, particularly financial resources, in place in order to be able to embark on this journey you've also committed yourself to, and then get yourself into the pathway sponsorship. The part two of this video will now look at what happens next after you've gotten a job. I will be evaluating your promotion strategy. I will be looking at, okay, how do you go in terms of minimizing your cost now that you've gotten your first job? What are the so the other part I will be looking at now is the actual band that you should be targeting in order to make life easier for you. So watch out for the part two of this video. Thank you so much. Good to see you again. Bye.